Right.
All right. So you saw how you created the groups. So, wrong screen. This happens when I have two. Okay. So when you have groups and you want to assign them, you did that. You go to people,
Yep.
add group set, and then I don't have any students in this one,
Right.
but then you pop them all in there. So from one of my other classes, the participants had to put us in groups. So when a student or you have been put into a group, you see this icon over here. See this one where it says groups? Okay. So that's not there otherwise, unless you're in a group. So then they could just click on groups and it pops this up. And this is every group they're in for all their classes.
Gotcha.
So the group that you created, so this is kind of telling too. You want to kind of name your group something good besides group A, right? Because you might want to name it like, the CID for your course and then group A or something.
Because what I did was like group 1 Newsbeat presentations in parentheses. Group 2 Newsbeat presentations. Is that
that would work? I mean, as long as you think if they're in groups for all of their classes,
right?
You want it to make sense.
Okay, gotcha.
When they go to choose it. So
instead of just group A, and you're like, okay, what class is that for?
What class is that for? Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so, I mean, maybe you're the only class they have groups. You never know, but it's always a good idea to try to get that out of the way. Gotcha. So then here, once you click on your group, this is the automatic default homepage for them is the activity stream.
Okay.
Basically, what making groups gives them is their own Canvas shell for them and their group.
Gotcha.
And so it's empty. So if they make any announcements, discussions, whatever, would go right here. And then they can add announcements. The students can add announcements to each other.
Group.
Right. And nobody else in the class is going to see it.
Gotcha.
But you, as the teacher, can also add announcements. In there, like, hey, saw you guys were working on this, or step it up, we're getting to the deadline, or, great work, or whatever.
So how would I see their announcements? Where would I go as the professor to see?
You would just come right here into their group. You mean, how do you get to their group?
Yes.
I'm trying to think if you have this group one on the side. I don't think so. I'll show you in a sec.
So.
No, I'll show you in 1 sec, because I don't have it in my other course too. This is my sandbox.
Gotcha.
But they can add pages, they can see who else is in their group, they can have discussions within their group.
So I can add a discussion question within the group too, correct?
Yep. Like leading questions that you want them to work on, but they can also talk about things. So one of the nice things about this group feature is that you can monitor all of their conversation.
Gotcha.
Which is kind of a good idea too, instead of they're meeting at the library and you don't know what they're doing, or how often they're meeting, or whatever. And
or how many people are actually participating.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can, they can upload files, like if they're trying to get all their papers together for their presentation and stuff like that. Collaborations works in Google Docs, so you just have to have it set up with your Google Docs in that. But really, you could do everything here within Canvas groups. You really don't need to go into Google Docs for that.
Okay, gotcha.
So,
but if they have, when, like with collaborations with Google Docs, when you say that I have to set it up, so I would go into my settings within my Canvas shell and enable Google Docs.
Yes. Well, and each person individually has to link their Google Docs to their.
So that is something that they would do.
Yeah. When they click on it, it comes in, so you collaborate using Google Docs. And then it'll say authorize the access, because I've never done that because I don't use it.
Okay, gotcha. Because I know a lot of my students do use Google Docs, especially if they're working on like a PowerPoint together. So each one can edit and save in the same document in live time.
Right. Which is very good for like Google Slides. So if they're doing pages, they can, if they want to just kind of brainstorm some ideas, they can just add a page and they can say, can edit this page. Only the members of the group, which would be just the 3 of them. And then it becomes like a wiki. So I can say, I have this great idea. And then the next person can be like, I have this great idea. And then they could just keep adding to the page or multiple pages.
Does it show who's added? Like, are there like track changes within that document? So will
I
they
don't
know
think
if
so.
someone's deleted something or added something or?
There is, I'm trying to think. I think you can see different versions of the page. In announcements, you cannot, even
Okay.
if someone edits it, because I tried to do that one time. But I
Uh-huh.
know on a page, it has a little tab that says see versions or see edits. I'll look at it on a different page.
Okay.
And then obviously when you use this, then you want to coach them through what
Right.
they're going to see and how they're going to use the different
Right.
things. So I would think if they were going to use this as a wiki, they would want to check this, notify users that's changed so that the other people in the group know that somebody made a change. Mm-hmm.
So how would I show, so like for instance, on tomorrow, I'm going to, I already put an announcement out to the students, hey, I've separated you guys into groups of 3. How would I show them what they're going to see?
So the best thing to do with that is take your sandbox and add those little pseudo people.
Okay, gotcha.
Then log in as one of them and start make up a little area so that then you can take them on a tour. The easiest way to take them on a tour is to use Screencast-O-Matic. Are you familiar at all with that?
I'm not, but I'm doing this on an on-ground course. So,
right. So you could just show them on the board.
Yeah, so I'm just going to show them, on the
overhead or whatever
projector that we have.
Yeah. Then that's great. But you can, if you add students to your sandbox, then you can always log in as the student. I mean, you can go to student view, but when it comes to groups, the best way to see it is to be
as
one
a
of the
student.
students.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't have fake little people in mind. So, but you can always do that when you're, I don't know, you can give them all your names of your favorite actors or characters or whatever, but or you can just make them Ashanti 1, Ashanti 2, Ashanti 3.
Gotcha.
Whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
So, but let me see in this one. View page history. So on the pages like this, you can go to view page history.
Okay.
And then it says who made the revisions.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So, and since you're an admin in the groups, I would think that you'd be able to see that too.
Okay, because that's what I just don't want anyone to say, well, I had put all this information in and then so-and-so came and deleted it. And, Right, exactly.
So, and that's one of those things too, where you can, if you add yourself to there and you give yourself different student names and then you try some stuff and then you can go in as a teacher and see what you can see.
Gotcha. Okay.
I always worry about that too, even when I thought of doing those wiki pages in the course. And I'm like, what if somebody goes in there and they delete everything?
Right.
And then I'm like, that was so good. And I didn't take a screenshot. I didn't do anything of it. I just, now I can't see it. Exactly. And then sometimes, the second they do it, then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cancel. And then they press save and then.
Right. And then it
went.
Yeah.
So, and that looks like you can restore to the other revision too. So.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good. Well, that's good.
So again, that's something you want to play around with the groups, but the groups feature in Canvas is really handy.
Okay.
So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And there's, Canvas guides on all the different things you can do with groups too. Okay. Have you looked at the Canvas guides at all?
Not in great detail, but I do have all of that bookmarked.
Okay,
so that I can go back and.
It has a great search feature, and so you can just look it up and then anything that's on there. And sometimes it's more than you need, but.
Gotcha.
Any question you have, how can I do this with groups or whatever, you can just type the question in there and it'll usually somebody else has asked it and answered it.
Gotcha.
And then you have
Gotcha.
That on there.
Let's see what else. What else was I doing recently that I had a question about? Oh, with the So with like collaborations like this, like the Klatch that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
is this an app through Canvas that you can add or
We do it through Confer
Confer,
Zoom.
right?
Mm-hmm. It's Confer Zoom. And the chancellor's office or California community colleges have a grant through the chancellor's office to offer this to any staff and faculty in the California community college system.
Okay.
So for free. So you
Gotcha.
can get a pro account. So what you do is you just sign up, just make sure that the email address you put here is your .edu.
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
that's how they verify that you're eligible for the pro account.
Perfect.
And it's super easy. And then you just click sign up.
Okay.
And
perfect.
so when you have an account, then this is what the interface looks like. And if you download the little I hate calling it an app because it's not really for your computer. See, it's down here, this little blue with the circle.
Yeah, I have that. Yep.
And then it comes up like this. And then you can schedule meetings, set up meetings, anything like that.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
then, so when I do the Canvas Klatch, I make a recurring meeting, but then I call it what it is.
Okay, gotcha.
So like I schedule a new meeting and then I call it the Canvas Klatch or like for which section or whatever. One of the reasons why I like to do that is because 3 months from now, if I use my personal meeting room and you gave that out for all 5 of your classes in spring semester, and now fall semester, one of your students like bookmarked, because you can bookmark your the Zoom rooms or whatever, because it's just a link, right?
Right.
So, and then all of a sudden people are popping in when it weren't even for
They're
your
not
class.
part of the class,
now.
right?
They either, number one, just want to talk to you, or they click in on accident. And, or they say to their friend, hey, let's pop into the Zoom room. I have this run. People do that too. I don't know why, but, so there's always that. So that's why I like to make, every time I teach this class, I make a new link for this Canvas Klatch. And then for each different class, I make a different link. So they're not all funneling into the same spot. So it kind of gives, also then if somebody pops in at the wrong time, like from one class pops in at the wrong time for your other class, it wouldn't go in, like they wouldn't be able to get in.
Right.
So, and so then you just set the time, or you just set recurring, and all the time stuff goes away. And then you can turn on their video. Sometimes we allow this enable join before host. You know how you got in and I wasn't here yet, but you were still able to get in? If you don't click this, then the person gets like this box that says waiting for host. And then they're kind of like, they just have to wait for you.
Okay, gotcha.
But like right when you got in, I got an email that said you were waiting for me. So you do get an email that says that. So that's good. And then the only thing I don't like about the enable join before host, probably because I taught middle and high school before, is I don't want them in there without me.
Right. They're going to have like offline conversations that they shouldn't be having. Yeah.
Unless I think if you set it up to, well, no, it wouldn't record if the host wasn't in there. So that's the only reason I worry about that. Like them getting in there and being able to talk. I mean, if you muted everybody, mute them upon entry, they wouldn't be able to talk to each other. They would be stuck in mute mode. But that has its problems too. Like say your TA was able to go in and they weren't muted and you had a problem, but you could contact your TA and say, hey, I can't make it to the meeting. And then they could tell everyone. So that's an advantage to it. So you just have to, you'll know your
play
courses.
Around with it. Gotcha. Okay.
So, but when I taught middle and high school, there's no way I would let them get in there before me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
I mean, some of them say community college is an extension of high school. So I think that's different community colleges though.
Yeah.
So,
and then let's see, what other question so I was playing around with, not playing around, but I was looking, I was looking at some of the apps that you can connect to Canvas, like some of the, like McGraw-Hill and, NBC Learn and all that other stuff. Have you used any of those in connection with your Canvas?
I have not.
Shells?
So,
okay.
no,
I was
I
just
have not.
curious. Okay.
We use, let me see what it is. I'm trying to think of the ones that we've enabled on ours. Not that many. And that's something where if you go into the Canvas community, you'll be able to talk to people about their different experiences with the external apps.
Gotcha.
So on ours, we just have Dropbox, Twitter, and Office 365 connected. I never use any of those things, but they're connected.
Gotcha.
And
just in case, right? Just in case.
But there's so many available. Those are just the ones that we have set up. So
okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I know some people when I went to InstructureCon last year, I think they had the rep from Badger there, and it's like badging. Have you heard of that? It's like a new thing. So as people earn different, like complete different tasks and stuff.
Oh, so kind of like they use with Waze? They have all these different badges.
Yeah.
Like Okay, gotcha.
Like how it changes your little icon and then you get this badge and that badge. So it's like this new, it's a gamification, I think is what they call it, of your course to try to get a little buy-in, for students. They earn badges for different things. It's kind of a newer thing. I don't know. I'm looking through all these apps. There's even a Minecraft one. I don't know what they're going to do with that. It says, allows students to link their Minecraft account to Canvas and use in-game actions to submit assignments.
Well, you know what? I will say we do have several gaming courses here at Santa Monica College. So
I don't know. My daughter would like that one.
Yeah, I mean, I could see how those particular courses could be, it could be helpful to have Minecraft connected.
Yeah, so a lot of it's going to be, so there's Canva badges, which is the same thing. It's just a different type of, it says the badges to students in courses based on total grade in the course and completion of modules. And you can put manual ones in there.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I don't know, but I don't think every institution has access to every LTI.
Yeah. We have like the ones that we have enabled for our campus. We have like the McGraw-Hill. There's 2 McGraw-Hill apps, so we have both of them activated. And then there's there was like a couple of other ones, and I was trying to like play around them to see if what would be the functionality and what would be the the good uses of it. And I didn't see a huge benefit, and so I was just wondering if if anyone else had experiences with that. So, but I'll go in the community and type that in and see what people are saying.
Yeah. And and that's the best place to get different feedback on, because you're going to get people from all different colleges, from different levels, from different, this really works for me, but I work with 5th graders, well, maybe I don't need it then, you know?
Exactly. Right. Okay.
So you'll definitely get a feel for that.
Gotcha. I feel like that was kind of it. I mean, was there anything that you saw in any of the assignments that I did that you felt like, this could be a different way to do this, or, maybe you could think of doing it this way?
Oh, I was going to say, not to you in particular, but like we were talking about conversations with students via their assignments. So one of the things that in one of the other courses I teach, when we did the virtual orientation, we always talk to students about setting up their notifications because it's important. Otherwise, they're not going to get the stuff. And so the other facilitator, I do this, but I never thought about it. But she said, make sure that you set up your notifications for submission comments. Yeah,
because I have some students that are like, I didn't know you sent me any messages in my grade, and I was like, you didn't? And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a notification
default
setting that they have to choose.
So It can be annoying as an instructor sometimes because everybody wants to make a comment that says like, done.
Right.
Here it is.
Exactly.
Or whatever. But I just go through
Yeah.
my email and I read the comments real quick. And then the ones that are like, here it is, done, whatever, I just delete those comments like from my email. And then I leave the ones that seem like I need to address them. And then after I grade them, and then I go through and see if I address them. And then I just file them. But actually, I never delete anything. I just file it somewhere.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't delete a thing.
I have a file for everything. So
yeah, same here. Same here.
Even one that just says "got it." That's where I put stuff that I saw, but I don't want to,
Gotcha.
But anyway, but telling them about that notification for submission comments is really important because they have no idea, like you said.
Yeah.
And so I can always tell which of my students has enabled it and which haven't, because I'll leave them a comment and then I'm like,
hello. Right.
And so then sometimes I'll have to send them a message or an email or something else because I'm like, obviously either they're not getting the comment or they don't care.
Yeah.
It could be either.
Right. And either
mine
one
are
is
all
not
faculty,
good.
so it's probably not the latter, but I think it's just they don't set it up. And even when we talk about notifications in the class, that's not one we talk about. We always talk about making sure your messages go and your announcements go.
Right.
But not always those submission comments. So
that's so interesting that you brought that up, because when I was building this course in my sandbox that I was telling you about, like I took a lot of, I really liked how you had your modules set up. And one of the things that I loved was in the introduction, it was kind of like this, best practices of setting up your Canvas account, 100%, like totally set it up so that we can use this to communicate and, get your grades and all this other stuff. So I definitely stole that from you. I was like, oh, I'm taking this. And even
and that's what we want you to do.
Yeah, even the netiquette thing, I was able to, download that whole infographic and use that as well. So that was good too.
Yeah, and that's the idea when we have all the stuff that we want you to use what we've made or created and stuff, and what we've compiled into the course because we think they're good ideas. So we put them in there, and then we want you guys to model after that. And then one of the things I always hope about these Canvas Klatches is somebody will come in and say, why do you do it this way? Why do you do it that way? So in one of our other courses, one of the things we do, it's a 12-week course. So it's much longer. So when we go into the modules, in that class, I'll show you from the home screen too. In that class, we change the homepage every week. So see how here it says begin week 4?
Oh, yeah.
So then each week it's a little bit different. So when we go to pages, down at the very bottom, since they all start with W, they're always at the bottom. Okay, so then there's, week 5, and then we just update our office hours, and then it goes straight to the first page of the week 5 module. And then we just change it early Monday morning or Sunday night.
So how do you create that button?
I can send you a link to the what you want to do in the Canvas community, because I did not realize when I sent this out to someone last week. In the Canvas community, there is a group called CCC, so California Community College something community, and so it's a group for California Community College teachers. So you will need to join the group before I'll send you the link, but you won't be able to access it. So that was one of those things too. I was like, I didn't realize because I'm part of the group. So I didn't know that I didn't realize it was part of the group when I shared it. And so she's like, this is a private in a group, and I couldn't get to it. So I'll show it to you, and it's on the buttons. But you can always do just straight up links too, that just are regular links that take them. But what was I going to say? In this course, we keep this, we have this module for facilitators. It has different things that we want to keep for ourselves, and then it's unpublished, so students
Okay.
can't see it, but it's kind of my own to-do list so that
Gotcha.
I have it all here, no matter what
Mhm.
computer I access it from, no matter which facilitator is accessing it and stuff like that. So that's
Gotcha.
pretty nifty.
Mhm.
And then we, in this one, see how our units are all numbered?
Yeah. Because I did
So-
that in my sandbox. So
Mhm.
the course that might open up is an 8-week course. So that's how I did it. I did the unit 0, which was kind of like a getting started module, and then I
Mhm.
did a unit for every single week of the course.
Okay.
Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And so you can do any of those, you can add in any of those things.
Okay. Gotcha.
When I was fishing around earlier, the stupid thing is being slow. But one of the nice things about the numbers is that then they can get into whatever unit they want to. So when I was
Gotcha.
Googling around earlier, one of the things I keep in my sandbox is this page called Things I've Discovered because things are good to remember sometimes.
Right.
So this one, I came across these example Canvas courses.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're these different ones that are, they're public, so anybody can see them. But
Right.
then it's kind of neat because we at One always design our courses the same way.
Right.
I mean, you're going to get a style,
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool. Like this one actually says it has badges, like a section. And so it doesn't show it, but it did have a selection here.
Gotcha.
But so you could see like different home pages. I just Googled like example Canvas courses. It came up.
Okay.
See, so this person didn't use buttons, but they just
Right.
used links.
Okay.
And I thought this was kind of a neat design. They put the last week,
Right.
this week,
the current week,
next week, which I thought was kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen that before, so
Oh.
so it's just neat to see different options. This person like has a bunch of these icons, one for each week. It looks like, right?
Oh my gosh, that's wow. That's amazing.
And so, but it looks kind of cool.
Yeah, but these are all Flickr. That's
the
the
pictures,
great thing.
probably,
they're all Flickr.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been kind of toying around with Flickr too to add, just a little bit more visual variety to the sandbox course that I'm creating.
So one thing I thought was weird about this one, it does not say how to get anywhere.
Right.
However, they deleted like every other option here.
Because they just want you to go to modules.
So you can only go to modules.
Yeah.
So that's an approach. I guess they're not going to wonder where to go if they can only go.
Right. This is true. It's like, where do I go? I guess modules.
I guess I go there. So I thought that was interesting.
So they have to set up by week, but they're using the month and the day of the week. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not even, it must be like, it's like every other day or it must be every meeting. Maybe they have, this is for an on-ground course. So like February 2nd, and then it says February 7th, and then the 9th and the 14th. Yeah. So it seems like it. Mm-hmm. Every meeting, I guess.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot.
So yeah, this one has a ton of content in it. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I'm just thinking how long that probably took to populate. Right. Oh my gosh.
But maybe they just keep using the same thing. And some of the stuff, it looks like they update though, like, let's see. What's up at the top? I noticed, see, they do these student results from course survey and they stick all this stuff in there.
Gosh.
So that's a little bit about building community, I guess. Mm-hmm. So, but I thought this was kind of a neat one because and this is somebody's sandbox. So they created it here, like, so you could see it. Right. And then this isn't obviously probably what their students see.
Gotcha.
But I thought that was kind of cool just to get an opportunity to look at what different people do. Because
I looked around in the course commons. Mm-hmm. So I'll look at that every once in a while to kind of see what other people, especially within my discipline, are doing with Canvas. Because, journalism is a very specific discipline. And so, there's certain things that, may work for like a physics course that doesn't necessarily work for a journalism course. So it's really interesting to see, within the discipline what some people are doing. Yeah.
Yes, that is definitely a good thing to just, everybody always wants examples, Yeah, can I see somebody else's course? Can I see,
Exactly.
And so I mean, even though I found these examples, I don't want to like pop them into our course because I haven't looked through them completely.
Yeah, right.
So I don't want to be like,
because there may be something they're doing that's not necessarily functional.
Or doesn't at all go with what we talk about in the course, in course design and stuff like that. So I just found this morning. So,
okay.
I don't want to, this one's kind of cool though. This one's a game design one. So they made like an image for each module.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
A short one.
Wow.
But at least then they, because everybody, and the more you teach it online and the more you use Canvas, the more you'll find out what works for you. So you may find that what you think is a good idea now
may not be a good idea at the end of the
6 months
semester.
From now, right. You'll be like, next time I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but that's the same when you're teaching in the classroom.
Yeah,
you come up and you're like, I didn't like how that worked out. I didn't like how that project panned out with everybody. I didn't like how we worked in groups, whatever. Okay. And so it comes the same, and you're going to set stuff up and, doing it the first time, you're going to find that some of the stuff you didn't do right or you could have done better. And then students will always come to you and be like, I'm stuck. I can't.
Right.
I'm in a dead end.
Right. I don't know what you're trying to get me to do.
Yeah. I don't know where to click. Okay. I don't know where to go next. And so one of the things we talk about a lot in some of our bigger courses and when we do our workshop is making sure that you're giving students information on how to contact you in multiple different places. So in our course, we just put it in the profile. But when your students, it may seem logical for them to click on people and click on you, right? That makes perfect sense, right?
Right, but that's not how their brains work.
Not always. Some of them do. Some of them are looking at the homepage. Some want to find it in the syllabus. Some want to find it, who knows? Right. So it's always a good idea to put your contact information in multiple places, especially anywhere they may struggle.
Right. Yeah, because I saw you had it in, yes, in your profile, but then I also saw you had it like in the welcome, and then there was like another place, and I was like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. So, all roads kind of lead to Rome, but you don't have to necessarily take
and that's
the same road.
That's the thing you want to think about the most with your students is just because it makes absolute 100% perfect sense doesn't mean that's how they're going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So just because everyone's different and their experiences are different. So you're going to have students that have been taking courses in Canvas and then you're going to have students that have never taken a course in Canvas.
Right. And never used Canvas at all. So, because I had that because we just switched from eCompanion to Canvas.
eCompanion? Okay, I haven't even heard of that one.
I didn't have the pleasure, and I hear it was a real pleasure, to use eCompanion. Because when I was hired, they were transitioning. And so when I got hired, even though the first entire semester I was here, they were still using eCompanion. They said, we're not paying to train anyone else on eCompanion. So sorry, for now, you're not going to have like an online management system for your course, which was crazy to me because really for the last 3 years, I've been teaching using either Blackboard or some form of Canvas or, what have you. And so it was weird not to have a system in place that I could communicate with students, that I could deliver their grades, that I could, have that online support for the on-ground class. So we switched from eCompanion to Canvas. And I had the ability to use Canvas as a student because I took a history of the documentary course over the summer at another community college. Just cause. And so they were using Canvas. So I was able to get the experience of using Canvas as a student before I had a chance to use it as a professor, which was actually kind of cool. Because I was like, man, why did he do it like this? This is really weird. Like, this isn't just a bit wonky, or, you know, I wish this was here and I wish this was over here, or I wish this was just a list here instead of this. So I was able to kind of play around with it on the student side before I had an opportunity to create a course in it. So I think it kind of helped, but in other ways, I think it kind of confused me. So, because I was like, how did he do that? That doesn't make sense. Or, you know, yeah. So it's been interesting.
Or why?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
Right. Like, for instance, he had, the way he had the grades calculated, they didn't add up to 100%, which was always weird to me. They only added up to 90. So the highest grade you could ever get in the class was a 90. It was an A, but it was like, why would you do that? That doesn't make any sense. And I think it's just because he had the only assignments he had in the course, there were 3 tests. So I guess he just didn't want to have to add up he didn't want to have to, I don't know. It was very strange, but each one was worth 30%. So yeah, it was strange. I was like, why would you do that?
Bizarre.
That was bizarre. And I was like, you just don't want to do math? Like, I don't understand. So when you would get your test back, you get the grade, and then you would see that your grade was only adding up to, like, you know, 89% or 90%. It was just strange to me. So I don't know, like 80 to 90 was an A, but because there was nothing above 90. So yeah, I still to this day don't understand why he did that.
He should have just given everybody 10 points as a freebie and then made it 100.
Right.
That's what I would do.
Exactly.
Like, if you really want to do it that way.
Right, because I'm a little OCD, so stuff like that really bothers me. And I'm like, why is this 90? What's going on with the other 10%? Like, why can't I get this 10%? So yeah, just little functional things like that. And then I was thinking, well, maybe he just doesn't know how to add it up to 100. And then I was like, that's dumb. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. So
well, and he probably didn't really, like, it all was like I don't know. Like, it wasn't a percent, it was just points, or I don't know, but that would make me crazy. So I taught math when I taught middle and high school, so that would make me insane.
Right. It's supposed to add up to 100. So I don't know. It was very strange, but, you know, being a student on that side, to be able to, you know, experience Canvas for the first time and then be a professor was interesting.
Well,
but yeah, that 90%. I don't know.
That would make me crazy. It's better than going back to that e-companion, though, if it's apparently as bad as they say.
Apparently it was really bad. It just wasn't intuitive.
It doesn't sound like it was a standalone. Like, it was only meant as a companion to your face-to-face class and not meant to teach online classes with it.
Right. And then apparently a lot of professors on campus didn't even use it. So we have an option. Like, everybody doesn't have to use Canvas. You don't have to use anything. To me, I feel like it's a really good support system for my on-ground courses. Because of, you know, the ability to engage with the students when we're not in class. And I like having a system that I can deliver grades through. You know, so anytime someone's like, here, I have this paper assignment, I'm like, no, please type it up and please upload it into Canvas. Because I want to be able to give you notes and feedback, and I want to be able to, you know, highlight what, you know, I think you could do better, and then give you real notes on it. I can't do that effectively and efficiently with, like, paper stuff. And I hate paper because it's everywhere.
So I was talking to some faculty on Friday when we were down at Imperial Valley College, and they said they have students turn in their assignment on Canvas and turn in a paper copy. And I'm like, why on earth would you want to do that? Right. And one of them said because grading on the screen gives her a headache. Oh. And the other one was like, well, I want it to be more portable. Like, I could take it with me when I'm wherever, you know, and be able to grade, you know, old school.
But they want it on with me.
Right. Gotcha. But they want it on Canvas because they can run it through Turnitin.
Yeah.
You know, so that was like the biggest thing. But I was still like, why would you want a hard copy?
They had like a mini training for Canvas on campus. And it was super basic. like
Mhm.
really, really basic. And to the point where I went to the training and I was like, are you kidding? Like one woman was like, okay, so now how do I log in? And I was like, oh no, okay. It's like, I have a lot to learn about Canvas, but we're starting with how do you log in? And then it was like, okay, where do I find my profile? And I was like, there's a big thing that says profile, seriously? So it just, we have varying levels of even technology knowledge, technological knowledge
Right.
on this campus. And so a lot of my students, again, I just started here full time last semester. A lot of my students are like, you're the first course that I've had that's used anything online. And I'm like, really? Seriously? And they're like, yeah, I don't even know, like a Canvas, what? And I'm like, oh, wow, okay. All
Well,
right.
a lot of
And so
people say, like with this course, they're like, why am I doing something wrong? Because this is too easy. Like create a module, create a content page. And it's the reason why is because you've got everybody's at a different level. So some people
Right.
can be like, I'm going to create a module, create a content page, create a quiz, boom, I'm done. Like I did everything. But then
Right.
everybody gets stuck not publishing. That's like the big
Yeah.
thing. They just forget to press publish. But so there's so many different quirks. It's always something quirky,
Yeah.
and that's why all the assignments are like these little baby assignments, just because everyone comes at it from a different place,
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it'll be interesting moving forward to see how many, because I know that there's some professors in general, not just at our school, but like across the country, they're never going to use an online anything.
right.
It's just not how they started teaching, and they're not really, they don't have a desire to do anything different. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And, I think it seems great. I mean, I taught 8.5 years online and never took an online course. And which was to my disadvantage, but when I was in college, it wasn't a big thing. Like there was some online classes, but why would I take one when I'm going to school every week anyway?
Yeah, right. When I went to college, we didn't have any online courses, none. And there were no online, course management sites.
No, definitely not that. Yeah.
If you didn't get it in the class, sorry.
You didn't get it.
You didn't get it, So I think it's interesting now, even with some of my students now. I had one student who, I caught her plagiarizing because I ran her paper through Turnitin, and it was like 70% plagiarized. And I was like, really? And so I sat her down and I was like, look, I like, let's talk. Do you know the definition of plagiarism? Like, let's talk about it, because if you don't, this isn't going away. Research papers aren't going away. But one of the things she said was, she's like, well, I didn't know. I said, why didn't you come and talk to me at my office hours to find out, how to get to where you needed to be? And she's like, well, I didn't know what your office hours were. And I said, well, I handed out a syllabus in class, a paper syllabus, and I said, plus it's on Canvas in like 2 different places. I said, the syllabus is also on Canvas. And she's like, well, I don't go on Canvas. Well, and I said, sweetheart, listen, when I was in class, I didn't have this. This is a really great tool for you to use to help you, as you're going through and navigating through the course, so I would use it. I would have loved to have something like this when I was in college. Would have
Me
loved
too,
it,
especially compared to having all those papers.
Right. So many papers you had to keep track of, and you're like, oh, it's a syllabus. What's the, then you have to call a friend. What's due for tomorrow, right?
I left my backpack in my car, and then I took my car to the shop. And
right. And I'm like, this thing gives you, notifications when you have something due coming up. I didn't have that. It was like, oh my God, this thing is due tomorrow. Shit. Right? Oh no. So yeah, I just, it's interesting explaining to some students who've always had this, that, this is a really great tool, and you should
they even have an app.
Utilizing it. Right. I use the app to take attendance. Right. And one of my students was like, are you taking attendance on your phone? And I said, yeah, there's an app. They're like, oh, there's an app? Yeah. So yeah, it's thing, to talk with Canvas, to talk about Canvas with my students, because, even they are at varying different levels of technological advancement when it comes to, technology in general, but even Canvas. So
because you're using it not as a hybrid course, but as support to your on-ground course, right?
Yeah. So all of their assignments, I have populated in Canvas, and they have to submit them on Canvas. I use SpeedGrader, so I always give them feedback on Canvas. I submit their grades through Canvas, so that they always know where they stand in the class, because to me that's really important. And it also gives them, you know, the responsibility, accountability to see about their grade. You know what I mean? I want to give them as much power as I can to be accountable for how they're doing in the course. And to take it upon themselves to reach out to me and say, listen, I'm looking at my grade and I'm not liking it. Is there something I can do? You know, so I'm using it in support of my on-ground courses.
Yeah, somebody was asking me, so I check my daughter's grades. She's in 7th grade, but I check her grades all the time online. And I was telling somebody else too, like I can check my kid's lunch account and I can see, like, of course, you know, once they get to middle school, then they can get ice cream every day.
Oh no.
So I'm like,
that makes sense.
$2.50 on lunch and 75 cents on ice cream every day.
Oh no.
You know, and so somebody was like, you could check that. I was like, yeah. And I'm like, after him too. You drank how many milks today?
Yeah. And that's going to be me. You know, I had, you know, my daughter, she turned 6 months in like 2 weeks. And so I know when she gets into school, every online support system they have, I will be on top of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure to the point where she's going to be like, oh gosh, how did you know? Because there's an online system, sweetie, and I can check it and I know what you're doing.
I could check from my phone.
Right.
I could check from my computer.
Right.
I could check it. So like, I'm like, oh, did you have a quiz today? And she's like, if their planner would be online, that would be the best. So I could check her planner without her getting it out of her backpack.
Right.
That would be awesome. But she's like, I'm like, some of her teachers will put the quiz in like say in the morning, like with a 0 for everybody or a blank or whatever. And then they'll put it in at the end of the day. And so I'm like, so do you have a quiz today? And she's like, yeah.
It's like, how did you know that?
And then a lot of their quizzes are on our Google Forms or like within Google Classroom, and they're graded automatically.
Oh, wow. God, we didn't have any of this when we were growing up. Everything was paper. You know?
Well, and look how easy that is for the teacher. Like, it's like cheating.
It totally is. Oh,
I had to run the Scantron through the machine.
Right. I even feel like Turnitin is like, I think it's the best thing ever. But I was like, my professors didn't have Turnitin. Like, I mean, not that I was trying to get away with anything, but it was a lot harder for your professors to figure out that you were cheating when I was in school.
Yeah, it was usually because like they'd read it and they'd be like,
that's not how they write.
Right. Or this sounds a little too academic.
Yes.
And then and like when I was in school, I guess it was at the beginning of where they could put it at like a chunk of it into some kind of internet something and see if it was, you know, they could put a phrase in or a paragraph or whatever. But, you know, not like now where it just.
Right. Because I don't even run all of my students' papers through Turnitin. I read it first, and then if I'm like, okay, listen, I didn't learn this information until I was in the business for like 5 years. So there's no way you know in your own words, and there's no internal citation that this came from you. So at that point, then I'm like, okay, let me run it through Turnitin. So yeah, it's interesting. I always find it interesting when students are like, one student actually told me, she was like, well, I didn't think I copied that much. Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. But yeah, I appreciate all of these tools now that I am a professor, because it does make my life a little easier with dealing with students and grades and assignments. So yeah.
Yes, for sure. So, and that's the thing too, is there's so many tools that integrate with Canvas and everything. You just want to check it out and play with it and see what works for you, you know, because it's going to be different for everybody. But it sounds like you've already got an edge on a lot of the professors at your campus that aren't even using the tools available to them.
Yeah. Yeah, but I want to say I appreciate, the time that you've spent, answering questions and giving resources. And I think it's been very, very helpful. And I've already incorporated a lot of that stuff in, the course that I'm currently creating in my sandbox. So, so I've
You're
enjoyed the
welcome.
course immensely. Yeah.
I'm glad. So in this course, like I said, doesn't even have, it's only 4 weeks. So the
Right.
amount of content is just a little bit, but the main key is knowing where to find answers. So Canvas Community, I sent you the link for that button tutorial. So,
Perfect.
but make sure you join that California Community
The
College
group.
or you won't be able to get
Okay.
to it. And if you can't, message me back because I have a link directly to the YouTube.
Okay.
But see if you can join that group first, because a lot of that group too is going to have great ideas that come straight from our, what the needs are for California Community College
Gotcha.
people. So.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, I'm going to go because I need to get ready for classes and meetings and all that good stuff. So thank you so much.
All righty. You're welcome.
Hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day and enjoy that little baby of yours.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.